Where are we in AI's hype cycle with businesses? Today, we're going to talk about that on Culture Builder Live. Hey, I'm Chris Wink. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Technically, the news organization with a community of technologists and entrepreneurs. Today, we're talking about AI. Yeah, you've heard a lot about it. I know it. Don't roll your eyes at me. We're going to talk a bit about where are we in that hype cycle, because it's super prominent right now. It's impacting businesses across categories. I'm pleased to be able to have that conversation with Gaurav Kachhawa, who's the Chief Product Officer over at Gupshup. Business messaging, kind of conversational engagement platform company, raised $250 million in 2021. Thank you for being here.
Thanks, Christopher. Happy to be here.
Pleasure to have you. So start me off, because I said this to you, but 15 years in tech press, been talking about AI for a long time. A whole lot of consumer applications have come out in the last 6 to 8 months. So it's gotten very mainstream. So we're starting to get teased over in tech about overhyping. Where are we in the AI hype cycle generally, maybe specifically around businesses? How much are we making a mountain out of a molehill?
No, absolutely. So I think there's a lot of research that's been going on, and there's a lot of developments happened over the last few years, but nothing has captured the imagination as ChatGPT has done with their launch in November. And I think the big movement, I do believe that this is an inflection point. And the reason is because hundreds of millions of users have started to experience this. And the reason is because the technology has reached a level now which is kind of, people are able to see what is the power of what it can bring. So it is definitely kind of taken everybody by surprise. And I do believe that this advent of large language models that are so fluent in multilingual capabilities, and they can do all the understanding and generation, it is kind of creates a whole new horizon of new opportunities. So I think even though there's a lot of work that's been happening over the years, I think this definitely is a defining moment. That's why you see all the large companies and mid-sized AI companies, everybody racing. It's an arms race. I would even equate to a browser movement or the iPhone movement. This is what I'm calling the LLM movement. And I think this is something definitely, it's exciting for us to see. It has changed the game.
And just to play out your example, which will be familiar to our audience of technologists and entrepreneurs, but the comparison you make to, browser or iPhone is often the underlying technologies was there for years, but you have that moment where packaging, consumer interest, and technology all kind of meet in the middle and say, this is the moment that, yes, there were pioneers that may have predated this work. Technically, we're talking in 2018, we were doing AI writing of SEC documents to track companies we followed in terms of their financing. It did a pretty good job. We thought it was interesting, but honestly, we didn't get a lot of attention from our community from it. It was helpful and interesting, but then 4 years later, now suddenly it's all we're talking about. So that for me is striking, that we're like, this 4 years ago, we were doing stuff like this, but something about this moment. So you believe this is not hype. This is the collision of factors that mean we have reached this next standard.
Absolutely. It's the scale with which the costs of training such large models, the speed with which we can scale this, it's doubling every 6 months. So that's just started happening after, some of these new GPT technologies that came out. And the fact that it was able to be delivered in a fashion that consumers can interact with for free, I mean, that just opened the gate. And so it's definitely reached an acceptable level where people find it useful. So, a lot of people are using it for a lot of different variety of use cases that are adding value and making them efficient in the consumer sense. But imagine now what Gupshup can provide to businesses. Businesses have a lot of commercial interest in being efficient, unlike consumers. So they're definitely looking at this technology as, especially after this COVID and slowdown, how do I get more efficient? So I think I feel that it's definitely from our vantage point, a lot of businesses are now, if AI was something that was on the sidelines, it's become their focus. They're going to seek out, how do I get more efficient using AI? And that's
well, it's a decent segue for a question on my mind. You guys, Gupshup, had a 10-year track record, raised $100 million, and you raised $240 million in 2021. You guys had a big pandemic during that frothy time. A lot has shifted. rising interest rates. There's been quite a considerable tech drawback. Wondering how much that impacts Gupshup. How much does that impact your category? Business messaging or conversational engagement, as you guys use that language, basically helping businesses interact with either customers or consumers. How much has the tech slowdown impacted you guys?
Yeah, so I think we have been fortunate in that sense, Christopher. I think we play in a category which is basically digital transformation. It's all about efficiency, cost savings, by removing friction, having people being able to or businesses being able to interact with millions of their consumers on digital channels like WhatsApp, Instagram, Google Business Messenger, SMS, voice. We're seeing tremendous demand. We still continue to grow 70% plus year over year, and all these platforms like WhatsApp Business Messaging, Instagram, Google Business Messenger, RCS from Google, they're all in growing rapidly. So we feel that we are at a place where now with this AI being our additional tailwind, we're kind of seeing a lot of demand from businesses to use this technology and drive efficiency. So I think we feel that this trend is going to continue for decades. And I think while we might have solved the online web-based use cases, you go to countries like India, Brazil, Indonesia, Southeast Asia, Africa, most of the people are still on mobile devices and they want quick answers. They want to transact. They want to kind of find out where, how to buy things and how to buy, two-wheeler loan policies, or order groceries, or all those things they can just do right from, let's say, within conversational applications. And that's frictionless. And that's where we're seeing tremendous demand coming in from all these emerging markets, mobile first markets, which is been kind of it's been great to see even in this macro environment. And I think I would encourage everybody to look at how they can use this new advances coming in to get more of efficient. We can definitely help there, but there's a lot of innovation happening in this space.
A thing about AI, which, as you know better than I, had been deployed for many years in lots of technology and lots of companies at scale. But a natural consequence of any breakthrough technology is one of two things are true. It is not as transformational as people think it is. Something fundamentally slows it down, a la autonomous vehicles, or something just results in us over hyping what is possible. The other option is it is truly as big as folks say, and then it naturally has meaningful societal impacts, social networking, even early web. Like it did deliver on being so transformational for good and for bad. So you are working at the heart of product development and using this in a business sense, but I have to feel like you have opinions broadly about how this plays out. So could you give me your insight of what's your rosy, optimistic view of how AI plays out and has its impacts? But I'll push the natural techno-optimist that you must be as a technology leader to wonder, what makes you nervous about AI reaching real scale, real consumer applications? What's the good and the bad of what you think the near future of AI looks like?
No, absolutely. So I'll take the optimistic view, because that's inherently where
Of course,
we drive our
you're a business builder. You gotta, yeah,
and also just an glass half full, right? And I think what we're seeing now is similar to Moore's law, a scaling of how fast we can train these large models, which are very expensive infrastructure, but the costs of delivering these APIs are going down. And I think if we see that large companies will invest in this infrastructure, we'll see that the cost of serving these queries and using these models will go down by maybe 10 to 100x over the few years. When that happens, I think imagine this is an augmentation layer that is available on your phone for your personal use cases. If you're a writer, you're not looking at just autocorrect. You're just saying, okay, here's the ideas, just draft it. So you're suddenly getting more efficient. If you're a developer, here's the outline of what software I want to develop, and boom, you're already 50% there. So it makes us more efficient in using this in everything we do. And I think that is the optimistic for consumer. But on the businesses side, imagine now the kind of efficiency gains productivity gains you can drive. I mean, automation is one part of it, but I think just overall, the whole businesses, recommendations, live agents, automating the whole Q&A. All those things can become very, very efficient. So I think there's orders of productivity. I mean, what internet did in pre-internet world was becoming efficient. This is the next level of efficiency for every company. You can't imagine a company that doesn't have a website or a mobile presence or a mobile app today, right? Imagine, everybody will need a virtual assistant, because people will say, what do you mean it's late at night? I want to talk to somebody for my situation.
Right.
And I speak to somebody right now in the language that I speak. And today it's not a solved problem. It will be a solved problem very soon, where any time of the day, any language, any question, there is at least a first level response. And so that's the optimistic part, where lives get easier and we're making impact. I think on the cautious side, I think clearly, I think with the advent of these technologies, like with internet, there was so much of spam that happens, and people try to game how do you get further ahead on rankings. And so I think with this, you'll also have an army of people who will create fake content, all kinds of things. It's become far more easier to create spam on the internet with the same technologies, and we'll have to fight it constantly. I think it poses interesting challenges for people in plagiarism, and I think we've all talked about homeworks and other kind of things that we want to teach our kids to kind of learn. So it'll bring about positive change in how people are learning and how kids are learning to understand and live in this world where they have to be far more analytical and have scrutiny on whatever they read and see. And I think it will bring that nuance in front, because there, you can look at two different content and you won't know what has been created versus thoughtfully written, and and what's the authenticity of it and things like that. So I think I would say it will change how we consume content, how we teach our kids, because open book exams was one thing. Now they can also have open, anybody can help them write their submissions. But then what is more real world training for everybody? How do they become more critical and understanding and thinking? I mean, it's just going to have profound impact there. And hopefully we can be cautious and develop more ethical processes and learning, and for as we educate our next generation.
I got to let you go here, but just one follow up there, because you hit on something that near and dear to my heart. The idea of how we'll shift online in terms of who can we trust online and why. And Gupshup essentially doing, conversational engagement for businesses must think a lot about that. Who is impersonating a client of ours? That I guess I'm curious, you sitting as Chief Product Officer of a company like Gupshup, how much does brand or relationship become more important if the web could naturally be more crowded with fakeries or forgeries, or those spam efforts can get more mature? I gotta feel like it matters more. The brands that stand out matter more. Just tell me a little bit about how much you think trust plays in where the internet goes.
Yeah. So in a world where some of the costs of creating content kind of crashes, and you can have all kinds of content there jostling for attention, I think it just is going to drive more attention to what is the source, what's the brand, what is the quality, authenticity. For example, who are we listening to, who are we reading? And so I think clearly there's going to be it might bring big changes in how people consume today. I think there's the public search engines, there is the social media feeds. So there is a little bit of filtering of who we are listening to, right? Who's the behind this content source? And I think that's a trend that we'll see. People will gravitate to. They'll want to know who's behind this thing, and can I trust this source? And so I think I do feel that shift towards cultures like Substack, and a lot of people having their own channels who people trust will become important, because I think that will drive a lot of content production from authentic sources you trust. So I feel that will be a trend we'll see.
Love it. I gotta let you go. That is Gaurav Kachhawa, the Chief Product Officer at Gupshup. Thank you so much for the conversation.
Thank you for having me.
We'll see you next time, guys.